Are you guys like me and you're curious why Lureworks has 4 different variations of chartreuse? Let's get to testing and figure out why. Welcome back to Into the Woods. Today we've got another color demo lined up for you guys. We're going to be testing all 4 of Lureworks chartreuse variations. So the first one we've got is a chartreuse dye. It's number 107. We have number 108. We've got 126. And then last but not least, we have 181. Now we're just going to go in numerical order, just another way to randomize which one we're doing first. We've got our first cup of plastic cooking up. Now let's get to testing. So as I mentioned, we're going to start with chartreuse dye 107. Now one thing I want to touch on, and when you're using anything that says dye, it's typically a very translucent color and a bleeding color. Now Lureworks is really good about when you're on their website and you're looking through their colors, you will see underneath each color a little color chart. I will pop each one of these up next to the color that we're using just so you can see what Lureworks has these labeled as. Now, enough talking, let's get to mixing this color. As with the other color demos we've been doing, we've got half a cup of Bait Plastics 242. We're going to start with about 10 drops of this dye and see where that gets us. So yeah, as we mentioned with the dye, you can see how translucent that is. You can see all the way through all that. That is the benefit of a dye, and then you just have to keep in mind they will bleed. So keep that in mind if you're trying to laminate this with another color, that it will bleed. So we're going to start with 10. We're going to make the first one and check it out in a bait. Here we go with my one. And for anyone wondering, yes, we did the same sprue trick on this one. If any of the new viewers are curious what's going on here, go check out our other color demo videos and you'll see what we got going on. But here is chartreuse 107, the dye. As you can see, extremely transparent and see-through, but still very, very bright. So that's the really cool thing about some of these dyes. You can keep it very transparent, but it still be very bright. Really, really cool. Now we're going to get our leftovers melted back down. We'll add a little more pigment and see if it changes at all. We're going to add 10 more drops. So after adding our 10 more drops, it's kind of what I expected. It didn't really change a whole lot from what I can tell in the cup. With these dyes, you're really not going to get too much of a difference in the color when you add more drops because it stays very, very translucent. But either way, we're going to make another one with this and we'll see if the baits next to each other are different. So here's round number 2 with 20 drops for half a cup. Now let's look at that compared to the first round. So as I kind of expected, there's really not a noticeable difference at all in those two. On the left, you've got 10 drops for half a cup, and on the right, you've got 20. You can see just the slightest little bit of difference. This one just looks a little bit brighter, but not really that much of a change. And we're going to do one more round. We're going to add even more pigment and see if we can get this to change a little bit more. And here we go with our last 10 drops. All right, and there we have it. Still looks pretty close to the same as the first two. And we're gonna get this thrown into the mold and then we'll check them out. So here we've got our third and final round of this one. This was our 30 drops for half a cup. Here is our 20 and then our 10. So as you can see, the difference in 10 to 30 is almost nothing. The reason I did those number of drops is because a lot of colors build their pigments to be around 40 drops per cup. So we have the equivalent of 20 drops per cup, 40, and then 60. So we hit it right down the middle. We've got our thinner and thicker versions. But as you can see with these dyes, it really doesn't affect a whole lot. which is good because if you want to use these dyes and get this effect, you can use a lot less drops and get the exact same look. So your pigment will last a lot longer. But there is the Chartreuse dye 107, and now we're going to move on to the regular Chartreuse 108. We're going to start with our 10 drops of this one. So as you can see here, it is definitely a lot less transparent than the first one, but pretty cool. So we're going to get this one thrown into the mold and check it out. Here's our first look at Chartreuse 108. So it's labeled on their website as semi-opaque, which is a very good description of what this color looks like in person. So you can see on the tail and these real thin portions, you can still see through it, but then up here on the body, you really can't. And that's only with the 10 drops for half a cup. So we're going to melt our leftovers, add some more drops, and compare. 10 more drops coming right up. Alright, so I don't know how much you guys could tell, but I could see a noticeable difference while mixing that in. So let's make this second round and compare to the first. Here's the first look at 20 drops per cup. So what I noticed in the cup, and it shows in the bait, let me grab the first one, it got a lot brighter. I don't know how much you can tell on camera, but in person, adding 10 more drops definitely made this one a little bit brighter. You can see in the tail portion, you still get a little bit of translucency in the thin portions, and then still the opaque version in the body. But either way, pretty cool. I'm really curious to see how much brighter it gets adding those 10 more drops. So let's get to it and check it out. Here's the third and final round for our Chartreuse 108. Here's the second and the first. So you can see a little bit as like you add more color, it gets brighter. But what stands out the most to me is look at the tail portion where it's still thin. You still keep that semi-opaque portion of these like real thin appendages. I thought for sure after adding more pigment you would kind of lose that, and you do lose it a little bit, but it's still pretty cool how in the smaller, thinner appendages you still get that semi-opaque look. But either way, this is a really, really cool color. So if you're looking for something that's not quite fully translucent, but not to the point where you can't see through, this would be a great option. Again, that is Chartreuse 108. Now let's move on to 126. So here we go with this one. This one is also labeled as semi-opaque, so it'll be cool to see how it compares to the 108. So let's add our first 10. Alright, so there's the first 10 mixed in. Just first impressions, it looks like it might be a little bit brighter than the 108. So we'll get this injected and then we'll compare the two. So here's our first run with the 126. It's a little more translucent than the 108. Like I said, they're both labeled as semi-opaque. Here's the 108 on the left and then the 126 on the right. Both of these with the same amount of drops. Pretty similar. There is a slight difference. Like I said, the 126 seems to be just a little bit more translucent, but not anything crazy. So let's keep adding some drops and see if these two start to get a little different. So here we go. This is our 20 drops for half a cup. And all these little micro bubbles, so I'm not vacuuming the plastic between remelts and reheats, but you guys will still get to see what the color looks like. So you can see here the difference in 10 to 20. It is a lot brighter, which is pretty cool. It looks like if you're wanting semi-opaque, let me grab 108. I don't know how much you guys can really tell. The 126 does seem to be just ever so slightly brighter in person, but both of those are pretty cool for the semi-opaque variation. Now we're going to add our last 10 drops, make our third one, and we'll check all three of these out. Here is the third and final version for 126. Here's the second and the first. So you can see there is a slight difference. As you add more pigment, it does start to get a little bit brighter. Just like 108, you still get that semi-opaque look in the tails. And then the body, you can't really see through it. But either way, this is just a really good kind of middle of the road chartreuse. It's still really bright, not super see-through, not super thick. Just a really good overall. So here are all three for 126, and now we're going to move on to the fourth and final one, which is 181. So for our fourth and final comparison, we have this Chartreuse 181. Now this is also labeled as semi-opaque like the previous two, but the thing to note with this one is it is labeled slight bleed, so just keep that in mind if using this one. So that's pretty interesting. Adding the colors, the drops are like fizzing out. I don't know if I got water in my pigment or what the deal is, but we'll mix it up and see what it looks like. So I've mixed in those 10 drops, and it's almost like there's nothing in the cup. You can see just a little slight tint of yellow, and then you probably can't see it, but it's almost like it's real grainy. It's not really mixing in all that well. So I'm not sure, maybe I got just a bad bottle of color, or I don't know. But we'll keep pressing forward, I guess, and we'll see how it looks. So here's our first look at the 181 version of Chartreuse. And if you can see here in the tail, if I can get it to focus, it's almost like gritty. It makes it look like the colorant just doesn't really want to mix in with the plastic. Not real sure. Some of you Lureworks guys that have used this color before, let me know, is this normal, or do I potentially just need to pick up a different bottle of 181? But either way, we're going to keep rolling, keep adding pigment, and see how it looks. So here's a look at 181 with 20 drops. It still has that gritty look to it, but I mean, it's still a cool color either way. Like I said, I'm not sure if that's how it's supposed to be or what the deal is, but I'm going to show you guys either way. Now we're going to add our final 10 drops, and then we'll compare these three as well as everything else. Third and final round for the 181. Now let's grab the second and the first. So kind of similar to the dye, the 107 dye we used, it didn't really change a whole lot from one to the next. Now I don't know if that's due to this pigment not really fully mixing in, or I don't know, maybe that's how it's designed. Maybe that's what it's meant to look like. Who knows? But either way, that is pretty cool little color. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get all of the first rounds, then all the second rounds, and then thirds. We'll compare them all side by side so you can see direct comparisons. So here you have all four at the 20 drops per cup equivalent. You got your chartreuse dye 107, 108, 126, and 181. That is round number one. And then here you have the second round at 40 drops per cup, all in the same order. Pretty cool. And then we'll get the third and final round. So here are the 60 drop per cup equivalent. You can see with the exception of the two in the middle, they are all kind of unique in their own right. Let me know what you guys think. Now we're going to get all these out, lay them all out on the table, and then we'll take a look at the whole spread. So here you have all 4 options of chartreuse that Lureworks has available. We've got our 107, 108, 126, and 181. Let me know which one you guys like the best out of all these. I think if you're going to go for the translucent version, definitely go with the 107. And then if you want that more opaque, either the 108 or 126, either one. Honestly, the 181, since it is a slight bleed in itself, I would probably just go with the 107 and get that brighter effect. But to each their own, you can get whatever you would like. That is why we were doing these videos, to help you guys make decisions and not have to buy a lot of colors that you're not going to like. So here are these 4 again. Let me know what you guys think. And there you have it, guys. That's all 4 chartreuses from Lureworks. Let me know what you guys thought of the video. If you like this style, we're going to try to continue doing these color demos. I feel like it's one of the more beneficial videos that we can show to you guys, kind of help you narrow down what you will and won't like. Again, I appreciate all you guys watching and sharing these videos. We're definitely getting closer to that 1,000 subscriber mark. Once we hit that, I am going to try to do a pretty significant giveaway. So keep that in mind. Keep sharing these videos with your friends. But yeah, thank you guys for all the continued support. If you like the video, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, share it with your friends, and we'll see you on the next one.